Assalamu alaikum, mahwaf tamgavit qadab. Over the past week, the situation in the Middle East has become the central topic in the global information space. Another round of escalation around Iran has effectively pushed the region into a state of large-scale military confrontation, with many countries already involved. For us, these events have quite practical significance. First of all, the largest part of the Circassian diaspora is concentrated in this region, primarily in Turkey, Jordan, and Syria. Any large-scale destabilization here inevitably brings humanitarian risks and security threats to our compatriots. Secondly, geographically speaking, Iran borders the countries of the South Caucasus, and under certain scenarios of conflict development, the consequences could affect the entire Caucasus region. So while military analysts are assessing possible scenarios, we will continue to closely monitor how events unfold. And we'll return to this topic separately, bringing in experts. Right now, it's important to note that against the backdrop of global instability, issues of internal self-organization and agency remain a matter of survival for our people. Well, today we'll start this episode with some later news. For the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan for Muslims, a new large mosque is open in the city of Adygeysk. The first stone was laid in the spring of 2023 and in February 2026. A grand opening ceremony was held. According to reports, the mosque is designed to accommodate 1,200 people. This expansive complex includes a wide variety of modern educational classrooms designed for lifelong learning, along with state-of-the-art facilities and multi-purpose spaces specifically built to serve the diverse and evolving needs of the local community members.
نفن قابز أدقالي تريسبوبليكي اسمه جافد وشبسكايا أو أشان داخل دينم زواغز جنسو تلاب زوجينو أو حتى
The project was funded by Nart Siyukhov, a professional builder and private investor. In his youth, he returned to his historical homeland from Turkey and graduated from the Faculty of Construction in Nalchik. He built a career in the construction industry. He received state recognition in the form of the title Honored Builder of the Russian Federation. Several thousand residents of the city and nearby villages, as well as guests from other republics of the North Caucasus, attended the opening ceremony. The leadership of the republic and the spiritual administration of Muslims of Adygeysk and Krasnodar Krai gave welcoming speeches.
On behalf of the residents of the republic, I would like to thank the entire Siyukhov family for this wonderful gift to Adygeysk, and to all the Muslims of Adygeysk. And I want to thank everyone who took part in Ladan, who contributed their work, their energy, their help, everyone who built this mosque.
A special mention goes to the large delegation that arrived from Turkey for the opening. Among them were relatives of Nart himself, led by his father, as well as representatives of 27 clans from the All where he was born.
For many
of them, this isn't just a trip to a celebration, it's a rare chance to see their historical homeland with their own eyes and feel it directly. It's important to note that a significant portion of Circassians in the diaspora have almost no access to real life in their homeland. For them, the connection to their homeland often comes through retellings and through some official formats. The opportunity to see what's happening with their own eyes without intermediaries is especially valuable. This kind of experience becomes not just an abstract idea of the homeland, but a living feeling, which they share with those who still can't come. Of course, first and foremost, this is a festive event for the local Muslim community. At the same time, there was also the thought expressed that the mosque has become an adornment to the city of Adygeysk itself. For his contribution to the project, Nart Siyukhov was awarded the Glory of Adygeysk Medal. He was given the title of Honorary Citizen of the city of Adygeysk, and the street where the mosque is located will bear his name. The participation of someone from the diaspora in creating such a project gives the event additional meaning. It breaks the imposed stereotypes about the diaspora as people who have lost their roots, who supposedly have a hard time returning and finding themselves in their homeland. In reality, we see something different. If we assume that such an opportunity is provided on a large scale and not just in isolated cases, they will not only find their place but also become valuable contributors. In this case, the connection with the homeland will be expressed not through declarations and slogans, but through the creation of infrastructure that remains essential for local residents. In a broader context, this inevitably draws attention to other cities of the historical homeland as well. For example, in major cities like Krasnodar and Sochi, there still isn't a single mosque. And this experience shows that if the clergy manage to coordinate and obtain permission for such construction, similar projects can be implemented. There is potential and resources. The Circassians have them. But when it comes to rights in the historical homeland, things are much more complicated. Despite the blocking of the GTRK channel on YouTube, you can watch the full TV report about the opening of the mosque in Adygeysk on the Adygeysk channel. Another long-awaited event for local residents took place in the Turkish city of Kayseri. There, the grand opening of the new premises of the local Adygeysk was held. Officially, it is called Kayseri Caucasus Dernege. Numerous guests attended the ceremony, including representatives of the local authorities who delivered welcoming speeches. Some excerpts from their speeches spread across social media.
I'm a child from a family that relocated from the Caucasus. I was a young man who grew up in a home filled with traditions, with stories, with pain and suffering, and the loss of our homeland.
And this story was always heard in my grandfather's tears, in the cries of my family. I know that you children here, you also always grew up with this story, grew up with pain. Even in the happiest moments, you always carried pain here. Both my family and yours were welcomed by this land. We were given a big spoon. And from the moment the Circassians and Caucasians came to these lands, believe me, you wrote such great feats, such great epics. That's why Kayseri without Circassians, Dersia without Circassians is impossible.
As part of the opening, cultural programs were presented, including performances in the new dance hall. Recordings of the ceremony have been posted on the official pages of the associations. This isn't the only news from Kayseri Hatsa. At the beginning of the year, the organization announced the launch of a project under the Erasmus Plus program. This is a European grant project focused on working with youth. Programs like these are not just about funding events, they involve young people in systematic activities, help them gain experience, build international connections, and develop management skills. In the long run, such projects become tools for strengthening the national environment and reducing assimilation pressure. In this regard, Kayseri is one of the most active centers. There is another casa in the city, Berlishik Kavkaz, which we also covered in a separate episode. They also attract European support there and implement practical initiatives, including projects related to traditional culture, such as the production of Adygey cheese. Among some Middle Eastern Circassian communities, criticism is often voiced. Criticism at contacts with Western countries and organizations. Such opinions are voiced regularly and deserve a separate discussion. However, the issue here is not about the geography of the partners, but about how the opportunities are used. International programs can be a tool for development if they serve long-term national interests. Thoughtful and well-defined national interests should remain the priority, regardless of the current situation. In Nalchik, the play A Handful of Earth was performed by the Tsay National Theatre of Adygeysk. The production was staged at the State Musical Theatre and generated significant interest among the audience.
What we saw on stage was truly impressive. Both the actors' performances and the play's dramaturgy and direction were striking. As a resident of Nalchik, I want to say that for our people, for the Adygeysk people today,
this is the most powerful thing I've seen on stage.
This is exactly what our people, our younger generation, need today, so that we know our past.
Without the past, there is no future.
The actors were simply wonderful. Each one conveyed their character, each one conveyed emotion. There probably wasn't a single person in the entire audience who remained indifferent, who came here today and left without any impressions. Everything today was top-notch. Thank you, Committee Address.
The play is based on the novel The Last of the Departed by Bagrat Shenkuba and addresses the fateful historical period of the war in Circassia. Through the story of a people defending their land and the dialogue between generations, the production raises themes of loss, memory, and responsibility to the past. According to audience reviews, the play stands out for its minimalist stage design and its expressive movement. The choreography was recognized at the International Festival's Southern Stage. The production itself became a laureate of the National Theatre Award Golden Mask.
Out of 700 productions across the country, this play made it into the top 30 of the Golden Mask in 2025.
And now we perform in the Adygeysk language. We perform, as you saw today, Aviator.
Sincerely, I want to thank you once again, sincerely on behalf of the whole team for supporting us.
A few years ago, our channel aired an interview with the former Minister of Culture of Adygeysk, Director Kasım Kaçagogu. They discussed the state of the National Theatre, and at times there was some harsh criticism of certain productions. Back then, it was said that the National Theatre is not just a stage, but a tool for shaping the consciousness of the people.
We've sunk so low that we're stuck with vulgar comedies, just pointless comedies, just trying to make people laugh. What kind of drama did we grow up on? An entire generation has grown up on this. And what do they want? Does everyone really just want to cackle all the time? Really? Is this kind of comedy really deciding the fate of our people? What are we laughing at? If it's satire, then make sure it's real satire.
The screening of A Handful of Earth in Nalchik shows that the conversation about quality and meaning is ongoing, and turning to our own history is becoming a noticeable part of artistic exploration. Once again, the screening drew a lot of interest from the audience and confirmed that there is real demand for these kinds of topics. In this format, historical memory stops being just a subject for academic or public debate and becomes part of a living cultural space. At first, what was happening was presented as an operation that would last just a few days.
A hot war will defeat Ukraine in 2 days. Why even bother defeating them?
Kyiv will be taken that quickly? A day and a half, maybe 3 days.
2 days, then the city falls.
Should we raise the flag? And Ukraine will understand everything.
However, the war has already been going on for 5 years, and its consequences are measured not in memes, but in human lives and a crisis for the entire region, the scale of which we have yet to comprehend. On this day, Dmitry Peskov, the press secretary for the president of Russia, stated that the goals set have not yet been achieved. And that's why the operation continues. At the same time, it immediately became clear that the stated goals did not match the actual course of events. On this day, I usually just repost my publication, February 22nd. Back then, both my personal position and the one on the channel were laid out in detail, and they haven't changed. An army like this cannot win. An army like this can't win. Maybe this year would have gone the same way. But on the morning of February 24th, as I was scrolling through my feed, I saw a repost in the Republican newspaper Adygeysk's Telegram channel from a channel called Imperial Club. And this time I couldn't just scroll past it. The published video features lines that ironically play on the strikes against the energy infrastructure and the suffering of the civilian population in Ukraine. I'm going to deliberately play a fragment so everyone can hear it for themselves.
And sometimes, without electricity, people freeze while sewage dances through the pipes.
It's hard to see this post as an accident, and this isn't about a political stance. It's about editorial responsibility. If material like this appears on the official channel of one of the Republic's oldest publications, it points to a serious problem with editorial oversight. It's unlikely that the editors are deliberately undermining the credibility of their outlet. I can't stay silent about this precisely because I consider myself part of the professional community. In situations like this, the assessment should first and foremost come from the professional community itself and from society. The national press isn't just a mouthpiece for external agendas. It's a voice that sets the internal standard. And it's especially important to maintain that standard during difficult times, regardless of the political climate. Because wars eventually end, but the tone and level of public discourse during those years, they stay in people's memory. Unfortunately, this incident with the Republican newspaper isn't the only example of how the national context is being used for purposes that have nothing to do with the interests of the people. During these same days, materials about a volunteer unit are actively spreading online. Elbrus from Kabada. The authors went even further and tied their propaganda to International Mother Language Day. In one of the interviews, the propagandist talks to a fighter specifically in the Adygeysk language, trying to create, so to speak, a homely atmosphere. They tell us about excellent living conditions, the presence of a prayer room, and halal food.
Эльбрус Вашхамаху, Зица Зизаха подразделением и командирши. Букакуану Хэуа, Ягупсису, Дыкуан, Дымукуан Жау, Ахвадахари Шугужачин, Ситяжи Пафент, Фафи подразделением Теухуава.
Валавалем Сихуиша Жисну, Вихаху Пхумажинвеш, Вихаху Пхумажин Шаджа, Уняу Жасне, Мисма Диздашам, Фаткашикуану Сасобш, Демде Диохур Тамамш, Шипсаун. تشخين بسوري الحين مش خوجة بسوري دياش غش بسوري تيوكل بسوري تمامش بسوري بسوري قيد غاب لغانش دي لجغا دوج مسم ديونا دغوج الحين مش خوجة جسنو زيخويش بقى كوانو قد اغنو ادغاغر قد اغنو ديم دي بشاش دغجنو دي زغوسما دي زغوات شوا راجي دي نفوجو سيغواشا فراق وفقد غاب لغا في دي غوسا شلون امس نديرش دفراح
ديني مثل قومجي مب نماز شاشن شوبا شاش غابزو داخو مسج بستوس لغوا قديش
ديني متي خواج سنوسي خويش باشدي اج نماز شجن ديمدي
ابديس خشفتان
انديز خشفتان بسوري تواجراج تواخواج دي نخجهم ابعامي كوبساج.
To this, you get a sense of absurdity. It's as if we're not talking about a zone of intense military conflict, but about an invitation to a wellness retreat with a religious focus. This contrast between the reality of war and the attempt to present it through comfort and tradition looks at the very least provocative. Moreover, spiritual organizations are starting to get involved in the process. The Spiritual Administration of Muslims, the Kabardino-Balkarian Republic published a request from the leadership of Elbrus for assistance in sending additional forces from among the residents of the Republic. If you look at this more broadly, such activity is actually quite telling. It shows that stories about endless lines of people eager to fight, even for big money, are greatly exaggerated. If religious institutions and the national press are being used as tools for mobilization, it means that other incentives have already been exhausted. Replacing spiritual and cultural values with practical military objectives is a very dangerous path. National identity, language, and faith should unite and preserve the people, not just serve as a pretty wrapper to attract people to the combat zone. There is talk in the media about a possible Telegram ban as early as April 1st. According to several media outlets, this issue is being actively considered, and some experts see it as a further narrowing of available communication channels within the country. If such decisions are implemented, it could become yet another factor limiting direct horizontal connections between people united by shared informational interests. In these circumstances, the role of external platforms where open discussion of national issues is still possible inevitably grows. That's why it becomes even more important what is being broadcast by those shaping the discourse around key topics. Our viewers were right to point out that we've stretched out the publication of materials from the conference in Lithuania. And we did this in order to be able to thoroughly analyze truly important events. It also Who is representing the Circassian issue on international platforms, and how are they doing it? First and foremost, it's worth highlighting the academic portion of the conference. It was the presentations by Circassian researchers that set the substantive tone for the event. Here, we should single out the reports by scholars from the historical homeland, Medina Talastanova and Lydia Zhegunova. Within the allotted time, they managed to highlight the key issues facing the people today and outline a direction for further reflection. The presentation by the Circassian woman from Turkey Nart Siyukhov was also substantial and based on archival materials. Of the war, Circassians fighting for their homeland. Experts working on the history of the Russian Empire also presented the Circassian issue in the broader context of relations between Russia and Eastern Europe. There were also presentations from researchers from Jordan who offered the diaspora's perspective on both historical and contemporary issues. Overall, the academic component of the conference demonstrated a high level of preparation and a serious scholarly approach. The central thesis of the conference was the necessity of recognizing the genocide of the Circassians. This is the issue that unites the people, regardless of the country they live in. The question of the practical consequences and mechanisms for implementing such recognition has not yet received a detailed public explanation. However, the consistent work in this direction is, without a doubt, met with support. The subsequent rhetoric of some political activists, however, no longer elicits the same sense of unity. It is built mostly within a rigid, confrontational framework. And although the goal at genocide recognition remains undeniably unifying, the chosen approach to promoting it is seen by many as strategically misguided. It's critically important to understand this. Both in the historical homeland and in the diaspora, the demand for recognition of historical truth is not the same as a desire to become part of the current geopolitical confrontation. A lack of flexibility and pragmatism in rhetoric creates barriers to widespread support and turns an extremely complex national issue into a tool for short-term political gain. With a high degree of probability, this kind of presentation creates space for internal opposition. In a broader context, this often becomes a convenient excuse for those who seek to portray any external contacts of Circassians as marginal or inherently hostile. As a result, such rhetoric may not simplify, but rather complicate work in the international arena, creating additional barriers, where dialogue is needed. Particular attention was drawn to the speech of Yada Yagar, the head of the Committee of the Peoples of the North Caucasus. Listing heroes of the Caucasus from different eras, from the Russo-Caucasian War to the events of the 1990s and the present day, he mentioned names such as Imam Shamil, Dzhokhar Dudayev, and Zviakam Sukurdia. At the same time, many people on social media pointed out that not a single Circassian surname was mentioned among them.
But today it's important we talk about our heroes in the past. We talk about Imam Shamil, and we talk about other heroes. I can't recall right now the name readily.
For a people sensitive to issues of representation, such details often become important markers. If, in some parts of the diaspora, there really may be a lack of awareness about specific figures of the Circassian resistance, then in the historical homeland, these names over the past decades have become an integral part as self-identification. Perhaps the current situation is a reason to once again systematize and publicly identify the list of Circassian figures and military leaders from different historical periods so that our representation on international platforms always has a clear national identity. Another episode that caught the attention of viewers, including those of our channel, was the story involving the participation of someone introduced as the Russian politician Garry Kasparov. It was later revealed that Russian pranksters were behind this, and they have already published a video of the prank itself.
Hello, I can hear you. I can hear you.
But it's you.
See ya. We can't see you either. We can only hear your voice.
Well, here's my opinion. We should also support this goal. But I believe that Lithuania should also pay reparations, just like Russia, because Lithuania was once part of the Soviet Union. Colleagues, are we even sure that this is really Garry Kasparov speaking right now? I'm not sure.
One of our subscribers also pointed out that there was already an online meeting with the same group of organizers and the same interlocutor before. Again, without any visual verification, and during that meeting, big plans and strategies were discussed. The content of those conversations is a separate topic for analysis, but the very fact points to a major problem with basic verification procedures and information security. For those who are in their historical homeland, questions like these are especially sensitive. Experience shows that in the realm of political activity, such coincidences rarely happen. In this regard, the question remains open. Why, when organizing meetings of this level, was there no expert verification, including from colleagues in the homeland who could have assessed these risks in a timely manner? It's important to emphasize that this isn't about finding someone to blame, but about standards. If an activity is positioned as strategic and aimed at long-term national interests, then the level of organizational responsibility should match that. We hope that these lessons will be taken into account in the future. Overall, the conference in Lithuania showed that the Circassian issue remains relevant on international platforms. The academic portion of the presentations confirmed the serious intellectual potential of our people. At the same time, the format of political representation, the clarity of rhetoric, and overall organizational maturity still require significant strengthening. When we talk about national interests, it's not enough just to be present or to voice the right slogans. We need effective working mechanisms. Carefully crafted wording and a responsible approach to every detail are necessary, from the substance of the speech to security procedures. After all, this is exactly what determines how such activity will be perceived, as a one-off, emotional reaction, or as part of a well-thought-out long-term strategy. And here, the issue is not about the location of the venue, but about the quality of the people's representation and the level of internal coordination.
Where are the national interests stated? Hold on, here are some questions.
And to wrap up, a few news items from the world of sports, which is bringing us more and more updates. Young saber fencer Zara Jamirza from Australia continues to delight her fans. This time, she won the bronze medal at the 2026 Asian Fencing Championships among cadets and juniors. The competition took place in Jakarta, Indonesia. The medal won by Zara and her teammates was historic. These are the first medals that the Asian Championships ever won by Australian fencers. This is not just a personal achievement, but another example of how Circassians are making their mark in different countries around the world. Another popular topic on social media has been videos of recent MMA fights in Jordan. What drew attention was not only the sporting aspect and the victory of the local Circassian fighter, but also how both the crowd and the fighter himself actively used forms of support that are familiar to us from events back home. Flags chanting the slogan Adygeysk and the native language. This is no longer just about sports, it's a cultural marker. You can see how elements of national identity naturally carry over into the sports environment, no matter the location. To wrap up, here's one more piece of cultural news. The final stage of the Koltsova Russian National Dance Championship is just concluded in Moscow. A large-scale project that brings together children's and professional groups from all over the country. The Sochi ensemble of Caucasian dance, Narty Shapsigi, led by Artur and Oksana Levy, became the champion in the children's category in the folk stylized dance nomination, and in the youth category, the ensemble earned the title of vice champion. We continue our work, we are not going to remain silent, and we will speak the truth. Assalamu alaikum.
وتقدم يكبر ويتسبقك ساعة الوجه قوتكم يحبك شعب وابن تججات